Nayaswami Hriman here again with part 2 of 5 on the Old Testament, on creation and Adam and Eve and the big questions, okay? So on part 2 then, I promised I would start right in with Genesis, and that starts the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And then he went on, and God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." We'll have an explanation here shortly. And so God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And so it was so. Later he said, "Let the water under the sky, or the vault, be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear," and it was so. All right. So we have here in Genesis, we don't see the how of it here. Genesis simply says that it was so, that God created it. So this is when Yogananda then entered the foray or the fray in order to give the Oriental or the Indian, the Vedantic, etc., explanation more of the how. And the how is very important. It's very important to us today with our scientific mindset. This is one of the issues with Genesis and the Bible at large, is that it omits important pieces of, well, I'll just call it information. And so in the Oriental or Eastern or Sanatan Dharma explanation, the how is very, very important. The how of creation, and this is how it goes, like this. Okay, there is God the Almighty, the infinite Spirit, without a form, without a name, but conscious, obviously. How could God not be conscious? Was God self-aware? Well, let's assume God was self-aware. And in any case, so how could a spirit, how could consciousness create matter? Well, in a manner of speaking, you and I echo that process of creation. When we have a thought, invisible, you can't see a thought, you have a thought comes to you is actually the correct way of putting it. A thought comes to your mind to do something creative, let's say. And so that thought enters your mind, and it gains energy by your response to the thought. If the thought comes to you and it's a dumb thought, you dismiss it. End of thought. But if the thought excites you, if you will, inspires enthusiasm, then you start to plot how to manifest that thought. You think about if you're building something, what materials you'll use, where you'll get the materials, and on like that, you know. And then you go about your business, so to speak, and voila, the table or the chair or the house, whatever it is you were inspired to build or obtain, comes into being. So, now, unlike us, God could not go to a hardware store. So how does spirit, that which cannot be seen, invisible and seemingly indivisible, how can something be created? Well, it would take a bit of a trick, wouldn't it? Perhaps an illusion. And here's another analogy I want you to consider that we've been given. I didn't make this up. The other analogy is what happens every night when we sleep, which is we close our eyes and we go into the dreamland of the subconscious mind, and suddenly in that dreamland, not necessarily with conscious intention like we do when we build a table or chairs during the day, but there comes into our mind this great drama, potentially. There can be different characters in the drama. They can be characters who you know in so-called real life, or they may be totally imaginary characters. And if they are characters from your day life, they are probably acting in imaginative ways. And so it is. We can dream a sequence of great drama, tragedy, laughter, excitement, find yourself flying, doing all sorts of things that you don't do with your body when you're in the conscious mind. And this too is a little bit like what happens. This too gives us a hint that the creation is a dream. Have you ever watched the movie The Matrix? Well, I'm not going to get into that movie, which is very convoluted and just like the creation. But in any case, when we say it's all in your mind, well, for the most part, life is all in our mind, isn't it? That is to say, yes, there are objective things, people and objects and things that happen, certainly. But what's the most important thing to you and me is how we respond. And what things in our mind, like thoughts that come, inspirations, desires, fears, really it's an inside job. And it manifests outside, but even with us, within what we call me, it's very largely, our experience of life is very largely involved with our thoughts and our feelings, our reactions, even to things outside of us, but very often things of an imaginary nature. We imagine someone said something bad about us. We imagine that it would be like to, embark on a certain career or to have a certain person as our life partner. So very much of even what we experience, even someone who's very worldly, perhaps even especially so, takes place within ourselves. And so God created the illusion of things first with the same thing we experience when we have a really great idea, which is to say, energy. So God gets stoked all about this cool idea that God has or this dream that God embarks upon, perhaps for fun even, in the beginning anyway. And so God dreams and energy quickens. And so in the Sanatan Dharma, the Spirit of God begins to quicken with these ideas. And as these ideas achieve and respond, if you will, with enthusiasm and energy, the illusion gets bigger and bigger. And these ideas are like beings, okay? Imagine them being a particle of divine consciousness. Call them the angels. And armed with the fact that they are part of God, and therefore imbued with the intention of God, these great beings go out into, there isn't a world yet, like it said in Genesis, when it said the earth was formless and empty, with God hovering over the waters. The waters could be seen, Yogananda said, as the elements of creation, the quarks and the electrons and all from very fine to like strings in string theory, all the way to molecules and energies and light and photons and things like that. Things that we can't see with our two eyes. And so this energy begins to, it's in effect going out. The dream of God, the energy of God, the desire of God to create sort of pushes out into the world this intense energy. And so in this energy, we see as it gets stronger and it begins to take form and shape, the form and shape begins to stabilize. The analogy often used is that of a fan or a propeller or anything moving very, very, vibrating very quickly. That high rate of vibration, in effect, creates the illusion of form. And this is, fortunately for me, and fortunately for Yogananda, as it were, and for the explanation from the East, is exactly what science tells us. So this, at this point, is no great revelation to our new modern way of thinking. And it's no coincidence, therefore, that Yogananda came at this time. And so, with that energy going out and taking shape and form, there needs to be an innate intelligence. And the very fact that this is a dream of God means that God is becoming the universe, and the consciousness of God is immanent or eminent or contained within. That spirit is also imbued in this motion, in this illusion, in this all these different rates of vibration. And that it's that intelligence and that intention that then guides each thing, so it has the sort of the corollary or the echo effect of wanting to create, wanting to reproduce, and having the intelligence within itself to do that. Okay, I'm going to end this part, because it's a little longer than I thought, with the idea I want to come back to, which is God's desireless desire to create. We'll talk about that next.